Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits. So get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Chris Goldblatt, and Chris is the founder and CEO of the Fish Reef Project. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, Cinder. It's good to see you again. It's
Gosh,
wonderful to be back.
I love it when you come on the program because not only do you do all this fabulous, important work, but you always have updates, great, wonderful updates, because you are so busy doing good stuff.
Thank you very much. And let me just start by thanking you for giving us so much good exposure here on Nonprofit Connect and TV Santa Barbara. You really gave us a voice early on. So thank you so much.
I'm so glad to know that. Well, we make a great team, huh?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, so give us an update. I heard a little bird told me that you have a big project that you're very proud of in Goleta. So tell us about that.
We do. Well, the Fish Reef Project is a 501c3 here, a grassroots nonprofit in Santa Barbara. We identified a need 14 years ago to rebuild our kelp forests, which have, they've waned over the years. We've lost as much as 90% by some estimates.
90% of our kelp forests we've
giant
lost.
The giant kelp. It's the fastest growing plant in the world. It's called Macrocystis pyrophora, which means
easy
fire.
For you to say.
It's like fire underwater to the people that named it. And it's the heart of our ecosystem. Everything lives off of the kelp, whether it's the abalone or the fish or the lobster. Everything needs the kelp, and it pulls a lot of carbon dioxide out of the ocean. It's like the redwood forest is on land, and it's kind of our birthright as Californians to have it back. And the Fish Reef Project promised the local community here in Santa Barbara and Carpinteria and Goleta that we would restore it. And it took us 14 years to build the technology and go through the permitting and get the political winds in our sails to be able to pull it off. And
That's not easy.
No, it's not easy. But I'm here to say that we have actually done it. We've actually succeeded at deploying what are called sea caves. That's our underwater reef system. They're made out of marine concrete. They weigh 1 ton. They're 6 feet by 4 feet by 3 feet. And each one can sustain up to 5 or 6 giant kelp plants and all of the marine life around it every single year. And the result is very, very quick, as you'll see in a video that's coming up. That it was 6 months on the seafloor that we took the video. So we have succeeded, and that's phase 1. And phase 2 is we're going to expand it across all of Goleta Bay, because that's where the heaviest part of the historic kelp bed was, that is now no longer there, and it's been absent for at least 40 years.
Oh, 40 years?
Yeah.
What made it go away?
Well, in 1983, there was the largest El Nino in recorded history, and we had swells. I mean, I remember it vividly. I was a kid at the time. It was like fire and brimstone. We had, what seemed like 40-foot swells at the time that were sustained for a week, and it just scoured the seafloor, and it removed all of the hard bottom structure, the little boulders that kelp needs to grab onto. The little kelp seed needs a place to grow.
Oh.
And it needs structure. And that all got pushed out into 1,000 feet of water. And then what happens is every couple hundred years, we have big storm events where the boulders come off the hills and it repopulates that reef material. But this time, when we had our giant storm in 2017, those boulders tumble off the hill. They don't make it to the ocean because we're in the way. We have houses and hedges and roads.
Oh, gosh.
And so we're stopping the recharging of the reef's material. So that's why the sea caves are so vital. We put them on the seafloor, and it fills that void. It allows the kelp a place to thrive and grow.
That is just amazing.
Yeah.
So now I understand you have a video for us to watch about all of this. So let's put it on.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, let's have a look.
So this is 6 months underwater. The harbor let us store the sea caves that we made in Mexico and trucked them up here.
And this is in Santa Barbara.
That's in Santa Barbara. And here we are loading it on the Danny Sea, the local
How much do those things weigh?
They weigh 2,200 pounds. And underwater, that equates to about 1,100 pounds underwater, because the weight of the concrete is about half when it's underwater. But it grabs the seafloor, and it's very, very stable once it's down there. There's our team.
And So Fish Reef Project.
And there we are, lowering them one at a time. It's in 38 feet of water. This is our little release system. The buoy pulls the hook right off.
So
and
this is all part of your equipment, all this specialized buoys.
Yes, and we put them in clusters of 8 so they anchor themselves together.
Oh.
And then here we are 6 months later. This is California's newest giant kelp forest. So the kelp is all the way to the surface in just 6 months, and the plants are heavy and thick and thriving and healthy, and all of the creatures that depend on the kelp are starting to show up around the sea caves.
Those are obviously happy kelp plants.
They are, because that's a very good observation, because unhealthy kelp plants have kind of ragged edges and calcium all over it. So you can see the kelp is attached to the sea caves. If you look very closely, those are the sea caves. And you have the giant kelp, and then you have smaller species of kelp known as understory next to it. So you have a variety. It's called the algal community. You have a variety of kelp, which is what the animals need to eat. This is our first large fish. It's a kelp rockfish.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
well, how does the kelp know? Oh, hey, look, you guys, over here we have a kelp. We have a fish reef.
How does it know where to grow?
How does the kelp just all of a sudden decide to?
Well, the plankton in the they're called gametophytes. They float along by the billions.
Oh.
Here's some spiny lobsters inside the sea cave. And they float along until they find adequate heart structure to settle and grow. So we're just letting nature do its thing.
Oh, so you don't prime the thing by putting some magic thing on it or whatever?
No, that we've experimented with that, but it's not necessary.
Oh, that's good to know.
These are spiny lobsters. Now, this is during the day, okay? It's right at dusk, and each sea cave had 3 or 4 nice, fat, spiny lobsters in it. These are called Panulars interruptus, is the fancy Latin name for them.
Gosh, you are so smart. All
Yeah.
these fancy words.
Well, I know. Thank you very much. My mother thinks so.
That's important.
Yeah. And so they seek safe harbor in there, and they go in and they spawn and they shed their skin and they have babies. They do all kinds of lobster fun stuff in there.
They're having a lobster party in there.
That's right. And this is what we used to call a red snapper. It's called actually a vermilion rockfish, and they get 10 pounds. And what's really interesting is they start out in shallow in this area in 20, 30, 40 feet of water, and they seek refuge in the sea caves until they get large enough to go into the deep water, 200, 300, 400, 500 feet, and then become spawning size like you see in front of you.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and this, if you look really closely, that's called a cabezon. You'll see another one in a minute. They hide out. This is what they look like when they're full grown.
Oh, gosh.
Cabezon means head in Spanish.
Yeah, they're big.
And that's a chucklehead or a white belly rockfish, also gets very large. And as you can see, the small rockfish, and this is what they look like when they grow up, really need the sea caves.
So they go in there for protection?
They do.
The little fish?
They do. And that's a holdfast. That's where the kelp attaches.
So they go in the cave for protection, and they're able to, what, do they eat off of the kelp and all? They go up?
No, those are not herbivores. Some of the perch are herbivores. They're basically in there just seeking protection, because when you're that size, everything wants to eat you.
Oh, gosh.
And a lot of the small ones probably come out of the nearby marine protected area.
Oh.
And the big ones, probably displace them. And when they go out into the wild blue yonder, they just get gobbled up unless they have somewhere to be safe. And these provide that safety until they can get large enough to reproduce. Here we are going up the kelp stalk, and this is a pivotal moment because you can see how long the kelp stalks are. And when we get to the surface, my buddy Hank was out there on his 21-foot whaler. There he is.
Oh, gosh.
And we're going to put another tank on, wait till dark, and now it's nighttime.
Oh.
So you can see the fish are much more frisky at night.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Why is that?
But if you look inside, there's no lobsters.
Oh.
Because at nighttime, the lobsters go out for a walk. They go out on the prowl. They're nocturnal.
Even the little ones?
Even the little ones, yeah, because the sea caves empty out as soon as the sun goes down, and then it's on. The lobsters are out on the prowl. See, here's one walking around right on the top of it.
That is amazing. Well, why does that happen?
They're nocturnal. They're actually kind of like an insect where the bugs come out at night.
Oh,
right, because they just they feel safer hunting at night. Basically, less things are out there roaming around trying to eat them.
Oh,
That's
okay,
my guess.
okay.
So you can see them walking across the surface. Now, this is a kelp crab. They come in yellow and red, and they're very fast with their claws. You got to watch out for these guys. They'll grab you.
Look at him. Boy.
Yeah. So it's actually called a kelp crab, so it needs kelp.
Oh,
and here's
okay,
kelp.
okay.
Now, this is a sheep crab or a spider crab, which is a kelp crab's cousin, and they're kind of homely looking. They're not real beautiful. But
kind of dainty with the way he's doing his little.
Yeah, there he is. He's falling right off the sea cave. They get big. This is a cabezon, a baby one.
Oh.
And you can see that the juveniles of all the species really like to use the sea cave. So that's very important for the ecology. So there's somewhere for the small animals to settle and grow and thrive.
So the sea cave really serves two main purposes, right? Protection for the little critters, and then a place to thrive and grow for the kelp.
Yeah, it's all of it, right? So it's a complete marine ecosystem. There's the kelp rockfish, which was a full-size rockfish. That's about a 2-pound fish. The kelp crab again. There's a look at the vermilion or the red snapper. One more look at the lobster going for a walk. And this is the layout in Goleta Bay. So you can see the pipeline and the pier and the location where we put it. And on to phase 2, where we want to put sea caves across 65 acres of Goleta Bay. And that is the actual full kelp forest. So that's what we're going to do next.
65 acres. Okay, so, and you say it's near UCSB.
Right. So it's directly in front of the Bren Environmental School at UCSB.
Oh, well, isn't that perfect?
Yeah, the researchers can look out their windows with a pair of binoculars and look directly at the reefs. And that's very handy because some of our really good science that we get is in cooperation with folks that work at the Bren School up at UCSB.
Oh.
And the reef is going to be a really great place for them to study and get their PhDs and things like that. And the reefs last for 500 years, so they're not going anywhere.
So you said you're going to put all of these seed caves out there, but you haven't done it yet, or you just got the permit, or what's the process?
Okay, so the pilot project, the phase 1, is just the 16 sea caves. That sits on a footprint that's 60 feet by 60 feet.
Okay.
Now, that is a 5-year study project. It required permitting from 11 state, federal, and county agencies.
Gosh.
And it was such a difficult, costly process that in the past, the government itself has tried to permit reefs like this and given up.
Oh,
Right? So we've actually gotten through the gauntlet that the government itself couldn't even get through in some cases. We're the only entity ever to obtain permits of this type in California history. So we're really the trusted party for kelp restoration. The sea cave is the trusted technology. And the Fish Reef Project really is the tip of the spear for kelp restoration and habitat restoration in California.
and you are so persistent.
Well, you have to be.
I doubt those other folks are nearly as persistent as you. You just have a goal and get out of my way. I'm going to go achieve it.
Well, we made a promise to the community, and we have to keep it, right? If we want to keep the community's faith in us, we have to deliver the goods, and we have. And that's only been possible because of, there's been a few key donors that have stepped up. We've done everything that you see in front of you over 14 years with less than $2 million operationalized.
Oh my gosh.
A good portion of that came from my personal life savings, and the other half
Wow.
came from some local residents, a good man by the name of Albert O'Ayton through a donor-advised fund called Impact Assets. He
Nice.
provided enough money for us to operate for about a year. A good friend of mine by the name of Tom Sales stepped up. He just wanted to create a legacy and promote healthy fisheries. And Decker Brands, as a corporate partner, has been very supportive. And then on the government level, there's been the Santa Barbara County Fish and Wildlife Commission. They've provided grants. The CMRF County Mitigation Fund has provided grants for our monitoring. And then Santa Barbara Foundation has been a great source of support.
Great.
So we need more of that as we expand to phase 2, because that's a very large undertaking. It's a big multi-million-dollar undertaking. The naming rights will go to the largest donor. So if it's called the Goleta Kelp Restoration Reef now, if your name is, say, Smith or maybe Chrisman, something like that, it would be the Chrisman or the Smith Fish Reef or Kelp Restoration Reef, something of that nature.
I like Chrisman.
Yeah.
I think we ought to go for that one.
Yeah, I hear good things about those folks.
Yeah. So, and the thing that I love is that for 14 years, you have been showing that you're dedicated, you're trustworthy, you're persistent. If you say you're going to achieve something, by George, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And donors want to know that.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you very much for pointing that out. It's myself and my team, right? So we have a very good team here in Santa Barbara. Our team and our board of directors is the same people that we started out with.
Oh, golly.
And it's the same mission. There's been no creep in terms of mission, and there's been no change in terms of the core people doing this. And then we have really good teams in our international projects, which are in Baja, Mexico. We have a very large project down there, which is fully permitted, 65 acres. We have 700 sea caves in the water down there.
Wow.
And then we also have a reef in far-off Papua New Guinea for the tropics. And then we're starting in West Africa in Senegal and in Bangladesh. But our focus is always going to be kelp and Santa Barbara because that's where we're from. But we need the local community to step up and write some checks and get those donations going because it's a big thing to balance on our own. We have never been able to pay our own staff, including myself. And so for us to administer this properly, we really do need a war chest moving forward.
Right.
And we have proven the concept beyond any reasonable doubt.
So you're looking for almost two different kinds of donors. Now, you're a 501c3, so when a person makes a financial donation, it's tax deductible. They can do that on your website, right? So you're looking for donors who want to contribute, and you're looking for, I don't know, should we call them sponsors who want to help you achieve your larger goal? Did you say a little over $1 million or $1.5 million that you're looking for?
Right. So phase 2 would be 1.5 million, and that would get us through the permitting stage, which would allow us to permit that 65 acres because it's going to take about 18 months, include a full environmental review. And that includes environmental consulting and all the surveys and everything that it takes. Okay. So that's what we're looking for the next phase of fundraising. The actual construction costs are much larger than that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's get the permits first, and then we'll run that up a flagpole after the permits are in, and we'll say, okay, who wants to support the construction costs?
So then after that, what would you call it, phase 3?
Well, I would call them both phase 2.
Oh.
Okay, so this is the first part of phase 2 is the permits for that. And then after we build that 65 acres, here's the beautiful part. We can keep on going until we get back our full kelp forest. Because that kelp forest went from Rincon, it was 1,000 feet wide, and it went from Rincon all the way up to El Capitan.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, at 1,000 feet wide. And there's very good maps made in 1912 by the U.S. Geological Survey that proves that, right? So it was there and it was real. And before 1983, most people remember most of it being there. It was mostly intact up until 1983.
Gosh.
And the good news is we have the technology to bring it back. We have the means and the will and the ability. So this is not theoretical in any way, shape, or form. It's real. It's here. It's present. It's possible.
I think when people hear this, they are going to be so excited. This is all happening right here in our community, in Goleta. And UCSB, especially Brent School, they're really a big partner for you.
They are, and they do some of the best science in the world, and compiling the science on how this positively affects the marine ecosystem, or if there's any negative effects, which we haven't recorded so far, but we want to make it balanced. And then also looking at how it can help fight climate change through sequestering carbon and things like that. But as a source of community pride.
Yeah.
After the 1969 oil spill, Santa Barbara established itself as the leader in the world ocean environmental movement. It lost that cachet because it just wasn't doing enough globally to do that drew that global presence. And this project has returned Santa Barbara to that former glory as being a leader, as being an innovator in the ocean health space.
Gosh. So, okay, we don't have very much time left, but I did want to ask you about the Chumash. maybe you could quickly tell me, I think I heard you say you're interested in involving them.
Indeed. Well, they had such a rich maritime history,
Yes.
right? Where a big part of their food came from the ocean, the Brotherhood of the Tomal, which was used to collect a lot of that food. And the Fish Reef Project would very much value a relationship with the contemporary Chumash, all the different bands, and working together to help maybe revive some of that direct relationship with the ocean that they had, utilizing the reefs in one of their historical hunting grounds.
I think they'll be very interested. Oh, gosh, Chris, I feel like we could just talk and talk and talk for the rest of the day. You're just so fascinating, and I love all the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Cindra.
And thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you. And thank you for helping ocean life thrive.
And thanks for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.